I'm Thomas Waits. I am a sales coach, GTM advisor, and fractional CRO to startups. Prior to this, I was VP of sales at a global SaaS company, scaled that up post-Series A, and then had a successful acquisition, and then was recently CRO at another company that I had been an advisor to for several years as well. My start in sales was unplanned. After grad school, I joined a startup as the first employee, and we were doing residential solar energy in the United States. And it was like a fairly new thing at the time. We were using third-party sales teams, and just through a series of events with my founders, I ended up getting more and more involved with those teams. And then I ended up leading those teams. And then about 6 months later, the company was acquired by a $9 billion company in Silicon Valley. And then that just really put my sales leadership career on a rocket ship, and I've been leading sales ever since. I was actually talking about this in a coaching session with someone earlier this morning. Really great book that I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it has a lot of really simple principles in it, but for me, it really transformed how I think about sales and how I think about interacting with people. But I think for me, the main takeaway is really being empathetic towards others and putting yourself in other people's shoes and thinking about what are their motivations, what would they be excited about, what sort of pains are they feeling. Whereas a lot of sellers and also sales coaching, those sorts of things, it's like very seller focused and it's very self-focused. And I think generally it's not a great way to be, but also too, it's not very effective in sales. So that's been a huge lesson for me. I think in terms of leadership, there's been a lot of learnings that I've had, a lot of trial and error as well, because I got into sales leadership like very early in my career. I think one of them is vulnerability. It's something that I would say I erred on in the past, and I thought I needed to be perfect and everything had to be perfect, and if it wasn't, then I was a bad leader, or people wouldn't follow me, or people might not respect me. It's really not true at all. And so sharing challenges that I've had in the past or challenges that I'm working through, it can be a really great way to connect with people on your team. And then also as well, like when I'm coaching them, they're much more vulnerable and open with me as well. So I think that's a really powerful thing. Something I've talked about a lot and written about a lot is building winning sales team culture. I think focusing and prioritizing the team as opposed to the individual is really important. And so the way that I lead my teams is it's like, here's what our team goals are. Here's what our target is as a team for the quarter. When we have sales contests, I tend to make them more team-based. So we go on like outrageous trips together. Whereas like most companies, it's like they do President's Club and it's like the top 10% or the top 15%. Whereas for me, it's like we all win or lose together. And that's been a real game changer in terms of motivating people. Right now, most of the clients that I'm working with are founding sellers. So it's either founders doing founder-led sales, sales leaders who are newer to sales, or like founding AEs, founding BDRs, founding AMs. And so I think that the challenge is it's like, how do we figure out our ICP? How do we create a scalable sales process? And then like leveraging AI tools to do it, and it's what is the right mix of those tools as well. It's challenges that I've worked on previously in my own personal experiences. Now I'm really focused on helping as many people do those. AI is the obvious answer, and it's very interesting to see this play out because I see such varying opinions from people and different ways that people are using AI. When I see on LinkedIn that people have AI running their GTM or whatever, and that to me is terrifying, and I have no idea if they're being sincere or not. And if they are, I'm very curious to see the result. Then there's also really great ways to leverage AI. Like it can be a really powerful thought partner for doing planning or writing emails, or I was building a pricing model for one of my clients recently, and I hadn't done that in a year or something like that, and I was thinking about some of the formulas, and it just gave me the formulas really quick. So AI to me is an incredibly powerful tool. I think what's happening is people are using it in some really great ways and some really not great ways, and I think there's a shakeout in terms of seeing what's going to be the norm. I really don't think that the actual sales process itself has changed for me. 'Cause maybe some people would push back on this, but for me, I think that sales is really about human interaction and it's people to people for the most part. And so it's hard for me to say that AI would then radically change what that process looks like. I think that it has changed like the supports along the way. So for example, I have a framework for writing cold emails with my teams, and we have a planning doc for that. And to get going on those emails, it's like you can upload those to Claude. You have to do like a lot of editing after, but it can be a really good starting point. And so I wouldn't say that changes the sales process. The process still is we're going to cold email people, but it's more like the supports along the way. I know some companies, they have replaced some things with AI. There's somebody that I was interacting with, I think with last week, and it's like they're trying to do like pre-demos or early demos with AI, and it's no longer like human to human. So that would be like a pretty fundamental change. I would say Claude. Claude has been very helpful. One of the best things that I've used it for is I record all of my coaching calls, which I wouldn't have typically recorded in the past. I am then able to back out like the frameworks that I give to people and then create articles and takeaways and more actionable, let's say, content for people, which has been awesome. That's been game changing. And I wish I had had that earlier in my career, because there's so many coaching sessions that I've done with AEs or other sales leaders working for me. And if we had been able to document those things, like that would have been amazing. I think a lot of people have the sense that this is going to become more important, and I tend to agree. It's really interesting, even with like without AI and just work from home, I think that people feel a sense of isolation, or they're not connecting with people as much. And so layer on AI now, where you have people wondering, it's like, are the emails I'm receiving authentic? Is this coming from a human being? There's so many questions. Plus you have increasingly people working remote or distributed workforce. I think that in-person events will be huge. And I think that we'll continue to see that have a resurgence. I think a lot of people have anxiety about AI, like people who are thinking about getting into sales. It was really interesting. It was about a year ago. I was sitting on a panel for people getting into sales, and almost every question that I received was about how AI was going to impact sales. And I could tell that they weren't so much questions about tech, they were more questions about, should I even be in this field? From my perspective, I think that great salespeople will continue to be exceptionally important, and I think that it's a great field to get into. People who are interested, they should chart that course and continue on with it and not be scared or worried about that. In terms of sales leaders, there's lots of advice that I would give, but probably the number one would be implementing a coaching practice, and like a true coaching practice. Like a lot of sales leaders say that they're coaching, but they're actually more like telling and training and that sort of thing. And they're just using the word coaching, let's say. But implementing a true coaching practice, I think, is just an incredible thing. And for me, not only did it make me a much more effective leader, but it also really increased the performance of my team. So implementing that both in a structured, it's like we do weekly sessions together, whether it be group or individual, I think is great. But then also doing it in a more ad hoc basis. If one of your account executives, for example, comes to you about a deal, wants deal support, it's like doing that from a place of coaching is exceptionally powerful.